Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Company. Let's get started. A massive overnight attack on Ukraine by Russia. More than 70 missiles, over 400 drones fired on Ukrainian cities. Thousands of homes plunged into darkness in this bitter cold. This even as the trilateral talks between the US, Ukraine and Russia are scheduled for Wednesday. We also tell you more about what the US President Donald Trump has been claiming regarding those peace efforts. Also on the show for you tonight, Iran claims American aircraft carrier has withdrawn from near Iranian waters. What is the US saying and what's really happening on the ground? Also telling you all that you need to know on the crucial India-US trade deal. All this and lots more coming up. The fighting has escalated in Ukraine. More than 70 missiles, 450 drones fired by Russia hit Kharkiv, Kiev, Odessa and other parts overnight. Thousands of homes plunged into darkness. This even as the trilateral talks between the US, Ukraine and Russia are scheduled to take place on Wednesday. A grim reality stares at Ukraine at this point. Earlier, US President Donald Trump, remember, hinted that his administration might have good news regarding efforts to end the Ukraine war, recalling how he convinced Russian President Vladimir Putin for a temporary temperature-linked ceasefire. Listen to this.
We settled 8 wars, and I think we're doing very well with Ukraine and Russia. For the first time, I'm saying that. I think we're going to maybe have some good news.
However, this turned out to be false hope, it seems, as Russia launched a big overnight attack on Ukraine's energy facilities, damaging power generation and distribution facilities across the country. Meanwhile, residents of Kiev cast serious doubts about any let-up in the turbulent situation.
There is always hope. Everybody hopes that maybe the situation will get better, that the war will end. But no. As we see, there is nothing like this in the foreseeable future. The Russians use this weather to terrorize the civilian population.
The Motherland Monument. It's an iconic Soviet-era World War II memorial. It was also damaged in that attack. Fragments of a Shahed drone were reportedly seen on the spot. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president held a coordination call to discuss the situation in the energy sector. This coming in as over 1,100 residential buildings were left without heating after the overnight Russian attack. And Zelensky accused the Russian army of exploiting the US ceasefire proposal to stockpile missiles and wait till the temperatures dropped below 20 degrees Celsius. Apart from Kiev, Sumy, Kharkiv, Dnipro, Odessa also witnessed damage to residential buildings, kindergartens, energy infrastructure. Zelensky revealed that the attack involved 32 ballistic missiles, 28 cruise missiles and Shahed drones, reportedly, most of which were intercepted by Ukrainian forces, according to him. And he attributed the latest wave of the Russian attacks to Putin's tendency to bet on war and destruction of Ukraine. In the wake of all of this, he also dropped a hint that his negotiating team will adopt a fresh strategy for Wednesday's meeting. Meanwhile, the NATO chief arrived in Kiev for a surprise visit just hours after Russia's attack. And he held elaborate discussions with Zelensky and also paid homage to soldiers killed in the Russian invasion by laying flowers at a memorial. In fact, there was more drama in store as an air alert warning was issued about a possible Russian missile attack even as the NATO chief was in Kiev. Condemning the strikes, he affirmed that Russia is not winning the war.
Direct talks are now underway, and this is important progress. But Russia attacks, like those last night, do not signal seriousness about peace. We know Russia is paying a heavy price for this war, with over 1 million casualties to date and rising. Yet, despite Putin's willingness to sacrifice countless of his own people, he is not winning.
And the French president predicted the resumption of dialogue with the Russian president. However, he also cast aspersion on Russia's willingness to conclude a peace agreement in the coming days or weeks.
This is being prepared, and so there are discussions taking place at the technical level to prepare for it. This is also being done transparently and in consultation with President Zelensky and key European colleagues.
And as war and destruction continue to unfold at breakneck speed, all eyes now are on the ability of the United States to actually bring about a truce, and in this case, much needed relief for the people of Ukraine. Switching gears, diplomacy and danger colliding in Istanbul. After weeks of rhetoric, the US and Iran are set to sit across the table with little time to spare. President Trump has issued a stark warning: reach a deal or face the fallout. And now, interestingly, Tehran is claiming that American aircraft carrier has withdrawn from near Iranian waters. Our next report now getting you the latest.
The scene is tense. Digital maps of nuclear facilities flicker in war room. Envoys adjust their notes. American military primed to strike. Arab nations caution against hasty move. Tehran warns of a strong immediate retaliation. But behind the calm of conference halls, a different kind of motion has been unfolding at sea. Iranian state media says the U.S. Navy's flagship USS Abraham Lincoln appeared to withdraw, moving as much as 1,400 kilometers from Iran's Chabahar port into waters off Yemen, raising questions about looming military plans or repositioning amid rising nuclear tension. U.S. officials have not confirmed the move. So is this a move by Washington to bring Tehran to the talking table, or is it a strategic maneuver by Pentagon to take the American nuclear-powered warship away from the range of Iranian missiles and drones and position it at a distance from where targeted airstrikes could be launched? This comes as US and Iran are gearing up for diplomatic talks in Istanbul on Friday, as President Donald Trump maintains that Washington will work something out with Tehran, but also warns that bad things would happen if no deal is reached.
Well, I can't tell you what I'm going to do, because right now, we have a tremendous force going there, just like we did in Venezuela, even bigger. And they'll be there soon. And I'd like to see a deal negotiated. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I mean, if I knew, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't tell you. I'd be very foolish if I would tell you. But right now, we're talking to them. We're talking to Iran, and if we could work something out, that'd be great. And if we can't, probably bad things would happen.
Tehran has insisted it wants diplomacy while vowing an unbridled response to any aggression.
We are ready for diplomacy, but they should know that diplomacy with threats, intimidation and pressure is not compatible. Diplomacy has its own ideology.
Trump has made it clear he wants zero uranium enrichment, a limit on Iran's missile range, and an immediate end to the brutal suppression of Iranian protesters. But experts say that the nuclear program provides ambiguity and a strategic deterrence to Tehran, while the arsenal of missiles are a shield against any aggression. Nuclear talks between Tehran and Washington stalled last year after Israel launched an unprecedented bombing campaign against Iran in June, triggering a 12-day war. Tehran has a lot of mistrust and says it would be hard to rely upon Washington's words. The Arab nations are urging both to come to the table and hammer out a deal to avoid a regional conflict.
Moving on for now, Indian exporters cheering the announcement from the United States of a deal that cuts tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from the current 50%. Two trade deals following each other in quick succession are good news indeed for the economy. Since Trump also spoke about Russian oil imports to India, the Kremlin has reacted to Trump's remarks. The Kremlin asserting that it has not heard from India about New Delhi halting Russian oil purchases. It also vowed that India remains Russia's strategic partner of utmost importance. In fact, the Kremlin said Russia only plans to elevate ties with India. Earlier, Trump had said that India has agreed to stop buying Russian oil, but the Indian government is yet to issue the details on the cut to Trump's 25% tariff for buying Russian oil. In fact, Trump also said India will buy goods worth $500 billion from the US without giving the details of the timeline. Indian purchases are set to include American energy, tech, agricultural goods. Will that American energy include Venezuelan oil, which Trump recently allowed India to buy? Remains to be seen. The details will be in the fine print, of course, which have not been made public as of now. Trump on Truth Social, meanwhile, said, I'm quoting now, out of friendship and respect for Prime Minister Modi, and as per his request, effective immediately, we agreed to a trade deal between the United States and India, whereby the United States will charge a reduced reciprocal tariff, lowering it from 25% to 18%. And soon after, Prime Minister Modi, after speaking to President Trump, in a post said, quoting, wonderful to speak with my dear friend President Trump today, delighted that made in India products will now have a reduced tariff of 18%. Big thanks to President Trump on behalf of the 1.4 billion people of India for this wonderful announcement. And the US ambassador to India, seen as crucial to ending the stalemate between India and the US. Indian exporters and US businesses are now waiting for the details to operationalize the reduction in tariffs to 18% from 50% that kicked in from August 27 last year. The country's labor-intensive sectors, which were the worst hit, are now expected to significantly benefit from the lower US tariff rate. And the deal has boosted the prospects for gems and jewelry, Indian textile, fisheries and shrimp, engineering goods and chemical industries. And India is set to benefit from lower tariffs and gain a competitive edge for its exports in the region. Now, the latest US deal also helps in boosting India as a choice for businesses looking at a China plus one strategy within the neighborhood as well. India now becomes a competitive giant, as it did before Trump's 50% tariff since August last year. From having the highest tariff rate, the latest deal cutting Indian export levies to near the lowest in the region. In fact, only Japan has a more favorable tariff gap. An Indian minister, Piyush Goyal, hailed the agreement, saying that this is a deal that will make every Indian proud.
I can assure the people of India, I can assure 140 crore brothers and sisters that this is a deal that will make every Indian proud.
US President Donald Trump has announced a major new plan to protect America's supply of critical minerals. It's called Project Vault, and it comes with $12 billion in government and private funding. What's the goal? Basically, to make sure American companies never run out of the materials that they need to build cars, phones, chips, and weapons. Because right now, the US is vulnerable. Many of these minerals come from overseas, and China dominates the global supply of rare earths, lithium, nickel, all things needed to make electric vehicles, missile systems, and also high-tech manufacturing. Washington believes Beijing has been using that control to influence prices and squeeze competitors. Trump says that puts America at risk. To quote him, American businesses should never be harmed by shortages. So now the White House is building a reserve, much like the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, but for minerals.
Over the past year, my administration has taken extraordinary steps to make sure the United States has all of the critical minerals and rare earths that we need. We're investing in mining projects, we're expediting federal permitting. The federal permitting, and a lot of it is Lee Zeldin, who's been fantastic, but federal permitting is such a big deal, and we're doing that.
Let's just break this down for you. Project Vault will basically buy and store large amounts of materials in advance. So if the supply chains break or the markets crash, US companies will have a backup. The plan includes $10 billion in loans from the Export-Import Bank, plus $2 billion from private investors. Trading firms will handle the purchasing and storage, and the government will be overseeing the system. Officials are saying the target is a 60-day emergency supply, enough to keep factories running during a crisis. The announcement immediately moved markets. Shares of US mining companies jumped. Automakers and tech giants expressed support. For them, stable supplies mean lower risks and lower costs. Supporters are saying this was long overdue. You see, for years now, American miners struggled to compete with cheaper Chinese exports. Domestic production fell behind. Project Vault could change that. By guaranteeing buyers, the government may encourage more mining and refining at home. The announcement was made in the Oval Office in front of top industry leaders, among them the General Motors CEO, mining billionaire Robert Friedland. In fact, their presence signaling a strong support from both producers and major users of critical minerals. The project has also drawn interest from a wide range of US auto and tech companies, in fact. Officials are saying stockpiling has already started. An executive structure is now being created, with the Export-Import Bank expected to hold a board seat. And this is not just a White House idea. Just for context here, last month, a bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced a legislation for a separate $2.5 billion mineral reserve, aimed at stabilizing prices and boosting domestic mining under Trump. And the US is shifting towards economic nationalism, less dependence on China, more domestic control, more America-first industrial policy, basically. We've seen it with tariffs in a way, with chip subsidies, with supply chain rules. and now with minerals. Project Vault is another front in that economic rivalry, especially as electric vehicles, AI, defense technology expand rapidly. The demand for these materials is only escalating, and countries that control the supply control power. Project Vault is still in its early stages and executive structure is being set up. Procurement has already started and the Congress is considering its own stockpile plan. Whether this works will depend on how it's managed and how the global markets respond. But one thing is clear, the battle over critical minerals is now a core part of US power and America is digging in.
The tanks were within a few hundred meters of Indian positions on the Kailash range.
पुस्तक की बात कर रहे हैं, वह पुस्तक आज तक कभी प्रकाशित हुई ही नहीं है।
मैगजीन का, न्यूज़पेपर का यहाँ बिना मतलब से कोट नहीं कर सकते।
इसके बजाय ये लिखा हुआ नहीं पढ़ सकते आप, अध्यक्ष जी ने ना बोला है।
The Indian Parliament has been thrown into a second day of turmoil as the sharp political row broke out over national security, trade deals and the right to speak on the floor of the House. The flashpoint coming in from the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi's attempt to quote from an unpublished memoir of the former army chief on the 2020 India-China border crisis, reportedly. The government accused him of misleading the House and belittling the armed forces, triggering a huge uproar, multiple adjournments in the Lok Sabha. 8 Congress MPs have been suspended from the session over raising slogans and throwing torn paper bits into the well of the House.
It is very unfortunate that leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi ji, is not allowed to speak. From the beginning itself, the first Defence Minister, Rajnath Singh ji, was disturbing, then Amit Shah ji jumped in, then Kiren Rijiju speaking. Rahul ji is mentioning about a book of an army chief, Narwane. Narwane is not a traitor. He is a celebrated soldier of India and he is the army general. And the army general's book and his words, why it should not be quoted in parliament?
Inside the House, the row deepened when Rahul Gandhi said he had authenticated the magazine article based on General Navane's unpublished memoir, and he questioned why he was not being allowed to speak on the India-China border issue. The chair objected, moved to the next speakers, and the Lok Sabha was adjourned amid chaos. The lower house was adjourned within minutes of convening this morning and later suspended till 2 p.m. even as the motions for election to parliamentary committees were being taken up. The political heat also rose further outside the House, with Rahul Gandhi launching a blistering attack on Prime Minister Modi over the India-US trade deal, calling it a sellout. He alleged the Prime Minister is compromised and is acting under immense pressure. He claimed the deal, which was stalled for months, was suddenly cleared without any real change and linked the move to the Epstein files and the ongoing Adani case. Warning of serious consequences, Rahul Gandhi said that farmers and workers would pay the price for the government's actions.
जो मैं जानता हूं नरेंद्र मोदी जानते हैं। नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने कल शाम उस डील को साइन कर दिया। नरेंद्र मोदी जी पर प्रेशर है, भयंकर प्रेशर है, और नरेंद्र मोदी जी का जो इमेज का गुब्बारा है, जो हजारों करोड़ रुपए लेकर बनाया गया था, वो फूट सकता है।
In fact, Union Minister Piyush Goyal, who was supposed to speak on the India-US trade deal, fired back at Rahul Gandhi, accusing the opposition leader of misleading people.
मैं पूरी तरीके से निंदा करता हूं राहुल गांधी जी और उनके सभी पार्टी और मित्र पक्ष के नेताओं का, जो इस प्रकार की ओछी सोच, नकारात्मक सोच फैलाने का पाप कर रहे हैं। वो भारत का उज्जवल भविष्य नहीं चाहते।
A quick look now at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Getting you the latest on the world's biggest merger, as it's being called, with Musk, SpaceX and XAI to come together. Decoding that for you in just a bit. For the first time, children are scoring lower on IQ tests than their parents. Is this thanks to screen time and the use of technology? How worried should we be? Getting you those answers in just a bit. Elon Musk has taken another major step to unify his sprawling empire of companies. SpaceX, the rocket and satellite firm, is merging with XAI, the AI startup founded by Musk, in a deal that could reshape both the space and the AI industries. Musk's Space Exploration Technologies, better known as SpaceX, has officially acquired his AI company XAI in what experts are calling a record-setting deal. Now, under the terms of that transaction, XAI will be brought under the SpaceX umbrella, combining AI and space ambitions into one company. The combined company, valued at roughly $1.25 trillion, making it one of the most valuable corporate entities in the world. Before the merger, SpaceX alone was valued at about $1 trillion, while XAI carried an estimated valuation of $250 billion. And as part of the preparations for a potential public listing, shares in the merged entity are expected to be priced at around $527 each. If finalized as structured, the transaction would rank as the largest merger and acquisition deal in history, surpassing the previous record set by Vodafone's takeover. In fact, Musk's strategy appears to be about uniting AI and space technology, a bold vision that could influence how computing and data centers operate in the future. Musk and company executives have talked about deploying AI data centers in orbit, powered by solar energy and supported by Starlink satellites. And by bringing these technologies together, the combined company could challenge AI and cloud giants like Google, Meta. In fact, this fusion further consolidating many of Musk's ventures, an ecosystem some analysts have nicknamed the Muskonomy. Musk also leading companies like Tesla, Neuralink, the Boring Company. SpaceX already holds major contracts with NASA, the US Department of Defense and intelligence agencies, which could trigger regulatory scrutiny about governance and national security. The merger also triggering questions about leadership overlap and conflicts of interest, since Musk is at the top of both the companies. US President Donald Trump has unveiled plans to construct a new monument, the Triumphal Arch, as a tribute to America's 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence this summer. At 250 feet tall, Trump wants the arch to be the biggest one of all, outshining some of the world's most famous landmarks, including Paris's Arc de Triomphe, which stands at 164 feet high, and the Arch of Triumph in Pyongyang, which stands at approximately 197 feet. Now, let's just take a look at the tallest arches in the world. Shipton's Arch in China, topping that list. The height of 1,500 feet. Next on the list is the country's Heavenly Bridge, which has an arch of 640 feet. It's followed by Chad's Arch that stands tall at 394 feet. The US also finding a place in that list with the Rainbow Bridge's arch measuring 290 feet. In January, Trump unveiled 3 potential designs for his proposed arch to rise opposite the Lincoln Memorial, while he considered smaller versions at 123 and 165 feet shown to supporters last year. He has now backed the towering 250 feet option, arguing that only a structure of that scale would leave a lasting impression on the visitors. Trump has suggested construction on this proposed arch could start this year. Though Washington's strict planning rules may slow down the plan, architects and preservationists are warning the proposed arch's design could overwhelm the capital's historic landscape and carefully designed memorials. Planned near the river, the arch would dwarf the White House, which stands at 70 feet, and the Lincoln Memorial, which is around 100 feet high. And taking inspiration from monuments around the world, Trump earlier posted a picture of India Gate in New Delhi, calling it a beautiful, triumphal arch. He said America's will be the greatest of them all. You can see that post. While the White House has offered no details of the design or the timeline, Trump last December, remember, said that he hoped to begin building within 2 months on Memorial Circle, a site managed by the National Park Service. What about funding? It's expected to be from the leftover private donations tied to Trump's White House ballroom project. We told you about that project as well. However, any final approval would require extensive federal review, including the National Park Service, the Commission of Fine Arts, and possibly Congress, under laws governing new monuments in the capital. After a bloodbath in precious metals, markets since late last week, Tuesday, saw a reversal with gold and silver surging again. Gold gained more than 5% to back above $4,850 an ounce. Silver gained over 11% to back above $85 an ounce. The white metal now is up 20% from its low in just 12 hours. Prior to 2025, there had been just a handful of brief instances in silver market history where prices were above $40 per ounce. And on Friday, traders were shocked when the price of the precious metal dropped by that much in less than a day. Speculators in China have been pumping hot money into the metals market. That sent prices soaring for commodities like gold, silver, copper, and tin, leaving traders all around the world watching their screens for weeks. And then, in the span of just a few hours, the upswing turned into a significant collapse in the commodities markets. On Friday, silver fell 26%. That's a record. While gold fell 9%. Its lowest day in almost a decade, even before the unexpected surge beyond $14,500 per ton petted out. Copper dealers were in a state of disarray. The head of trading at Heraeus Precious Metals saying, and I'm quoting, "In my career, it's definitely the wildest that I have seen. Gold is a symbol of stability, but such a move is not a symbol of stability." After another heavy sell-off during Asian hours on Monday, the plunge in precious metals eased a bit. Gold fell by about 4% after tumbling 10% earlier in the day, while gold still extending its biggest slump in more than a decade on Friday. Silver dipped by more than 7% after sliding 16% earlier and posting a record intra-day drop on Friday. Precious metals, meanwhile, had risen to record highs that shocked even seasoned traders. A Bloomberg report quoting sources showed Chinese metals traders racked up losses totaling at least 1 billion yuan or $144 million. And this comes after one of their counterparties fled the country, leaving deals unfinished reportedly. And that has alarmed top regulators who are now worried about hidden financial risks. Bloomberg sources reportedly said at the heart of the crisis is a trading network facilitated by Shu Muawa. Shu Maua, a metals dealer nicknamed the Hat. The dealer could not reportedly pay after the collapse in prices of precious metals and fled China. Separately, from hedge funds to homemakers, the leverage-loving Chinese traders behind gold's record rally are now nursing big losses, and this comes after one of the fastest and deepest market reversals in years. For many, the investments in gold before the losses lasted only a week. Friday's sharp drop wiped out gains and triggered a forced liquidation, with some losing as much as 84% of their investment. Still, the gold bust and losses are not restricted to those in China, of course. Traders worldwide have also seen a significant wipeout in their bets. Is London the new crime capital of the world? Barely a day after a burglary at a prominent jewellery shop in West London caused quite a stir, this time a crime in East London has left people grappling for answers. A famous bronze statue commemorating the British boxing legend Teddy Badlock has been stolen from a park in East London. It was stolen. The statue was erected in 2014 after his grandson raised $100,000. Thieves cut the statue off its base, leaving only the bronze shoes behind. The Met Police revealing that no arrests have been made since the theft was reported on Sunday. Why are so many emotions attached to Baldock? He was born in 1907, became a boxer at the age of 14 years, celebrated as Britain's youngest world boxing champion. He won a title aged just 19. In 1927, he became a famous public figure, of course, fought in Madison Square Garden in New York, and held the British Empire and world titles. Despite winning a fortune during his boxing career, he lost his wealth to drinking and gambling reportedly and died penniless in 1971 at the age of 63. Now, this latest incident indicating a broader pattern of rising crime in London. For instance, data released by the Met Police showing an 11% rise in sexual offences compared to 1 year ago. Similarly, knife-related offences surged to over 15,000 from June 2024 to 25. London's reputation has also been impacted by a 54% rise in shoplifting in just the last 3 years. 54% rise. Cases of phone theft have also increased by 25% over the last 5 years itself. Meanwhile, only 1% of the shoplifting and phone theft cases reportedly have seen convictions, just 1%. And as crimes in London continue unabated, it remains to be seen if the Met Police will step up to this challenge and redeem London's image. A politically unstable Pakistan is now exporting military power abroad to Libya. Recently, Pakistan and Libya have held high-level military talks focusing on security cooperation and regional stability, reportedly. On Monday, the Libyan National Army commander met Pakistan's Chief of Defence Forces in Rawalpindi at the Pakistan Army General Headquarters. Libya's Eastern Prime Minister was also present. According to Pakistan's military media wing, the Inter-Services Public Relations, both sides reportedly discussed matters of mutual interest with a focus on regional security and professional cooperation. The ISPR said the talks emphasized the importance of continued engagement between the armed forces of both sides. But here's the kicker. This meeting comes just months after Munir visited Libya in the month of December. Reports suggested that Pakistan may have reached a $4 billion defense deal with the Libyan National Army, including the possible sale of JF-17 fighter jets and Super Mushak trainer aircraft. So far, neither government has officially confirmed the agreement. But the timing is very significant. These talks are taking place against a United Nations arms embargo on Libya, which has been in place since 2011. It requires UN approval for any transfer of weapons or military equipment. But it's unclear whether either side applied for exemptions. During the meeting, Aslam Munir reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to strengthening bilateral ties and supporting peace, stability, institutional development in Libya. The ISPR described the discussions as cordial and constructive and as reflecting long-standing friendly relations between the two countries. But Libya is far from stable. The country remains divided, with Haftar's forces controlling much of the east and the ongoing political rivalries shaping its security landscape. Meanwhile, Pakistan in recent years has been busy expanding defense cooperation beyond South Asia into West Asia and Africa, exporting military training, institutional support, and now possibly hardware. If the $4 billion deal goes through, this would be one of Pakistan's largest ever arms exports. Not to mention the fact that it would, in a way, position Pakistan, a country known for harboring terrorists and facing constant political turmoil, as a global arms supplier, perhaps. And let's not forget, since Libya remains under a UN arms embargo, it would technically prohibit such transfers. And so the risks could not be clearer. A politically unstable, terror-tainted country extending military influence abroad, or at least trying to. And this could fuel ongoing conflict, destabilize Libya further, and also undermine regional security across North Africa. So then, does this development merit more scrutiny from the world and from countries watching the Africa developments closely? Is Egypt quietly stepping into Sudan's civil war? We are asking that because according to news agency Reuters, it has cited images showing advanced Turkish-made combat drones stationed at a remote Egyptian airstrip near the Sudanese border, reportedly. A move that signals a sharp escalation in Cairo's involvement. Remember, this is Africa's deadliest ongoing conflict. Until recently, Egypt limited itself to political and logistical support, but that appears to be changing. According to the Reuters report, Berktar Akinci drones, which are among the most powerful in the region, positioned at East Overnath, located barely 60 kilometers from Sudan. This is one of the most advanced drones manufactured by the Turkish defense firm, with the ability to travel at high altitudes, remain airborne for 24 hours and carry a wide range of munitions. Experts are saying the drones are likely being used for strikes inside Sudan, signaling that Egypt is no longer staying on the sidelines. Egypt, which shares the Nile River and a more than 1,200-kilometer frontier with Sudan, has provided staunch political backing to the country's military in its nearly 3-year conflict with the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group. But while Egyptian security officials have privately acknowledged sending logistical and technical support to the Sudanese armed forces, until last year, Cairo mostly refrained from direct intervention in fighting that has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced millions, and spread famine across the vast country. Cairo's position towards the conflict started to change when the RSF made a series of advances, reportedly, in Sudan's western Darfur region, first capturing a strategic northwestern triangle between Egypt and Libya in June, and then overrunning the Sudanese military's last foothold in Darfur, the city of Al-Fashir, in October. In December, Egypt's presidency warned that the country's national security was directly linked to Sudan's, and that Cairo would not allow its red lines to be crossed. Those lines include preserving Sudan's territorial integrity and rejecting any parallel entities that threaten the country's unity. Cairo argues that this is about protecting national security and securing its borders. But critics are warning this intervention risks inflaming an already catastrophic war. The conflict has drawn in multiple foreign powers, from the UAE and Turkey to Iran and Saudi Arabia, turning Sudan into a dangerous regional battleground. Now, Egypt's entry adds yet another volatile layer. RSF leaders accuse Cairo of carrying out airstrikes, satellite data showing repeated Turkish cargo flights into southern Egypt reportedly, and newly upgraded runways point to long-term military planning. Yet, Egypt refuses to answer questions. No official explanation, reportedly, no public accountability. Meanwhile, civilians in Sudan continue to be impacted. Darfur has witnessed mass killings. Entire cities have fallen. Aid routes blocked. And so every new weapon only fuels the violence on the ground. Italy has found itself in the middle of a rather bizarre and unusual controversy, one that sits at the intersection of art, politics and faith. Investigations have been launched after claims that an angel inside a historic Roman church was restored to resemble Italy's Prime Minister. The claim was first flagged by a report which said one of the angels flanking a marble rust in the Basilica of St. Lawrence now bears a familiar, astonishingly contemporary face. The story quickly sparked a major storm on social media, in political circles, and within the church itself. Italy's culture ministry has sent technicians to inspect the restoration and determine whether any rules were breached, while the Diocese of Rome has ordered its own investigation, saying sacred art must never be misused or exploited. As before and after images went viral, the leader responded with humor, posting an image of the angel online and joking that she definitely does not look like one. In fact, the priest saying the restoration was carried out after water damage and was meant to replicate the original painting from the year 2000, a work not protected by heritage laws. The restorer at the center of the row, an elderly craftsman, insists reportedly he simply revealed the original outlines and denies any political motive or resemblance whatsoever. Opposition parties, however, have called the episode unacceptable, warning that art and culture must never become tools of propaganda. For now, the investigations continue even as the unlikely scandal draws crowds into a church over there that has never seen so many visitors before. Huda Beauty is one of the biggest beauty brands. It's in the spotlight. In fact, the brand is at the center stage of a major trend. It's no beauty trend. It's not even got to do with any of the brand's beauty products. Instead, it's a boycott trend through which Iranians reportedly are expressing their anger against the brand's founder and owner. It's a campaign launched by Iranians on social media reportedly called Boycott Huda Beauty. On January 28, 2026, she shared a video that reportedly captured a woman incinerating images of the former Shah of Iran, US President Donald Trump, the Israeli Prime Minister reportedly. Iranian protesters reportedly viewed this as her mocking the uprising. They are angry. According to them, she has posted nothing about the crackdown on the protesters and is posting regime propaganda instead. That's what they accuse her of. Calls for boycotting the brand have reportedly gained traction on social media, with protesters expressing their anger by throwing away Huda Beauty items in dustbins, also creating an image showing her applying blood-soaked products, reportedly. Meanwhile, a co-writer of an Oscar-nominated film, "It Was Just an Accident," has been arrested in Tehran. His human rights campaigner was reportedly detained on Saturday after adding his name to a statement condemning Iran's supreme leader for the recent bloodshed in the country. This arrest coming just weeks ahead of the Academy Awards. These stories, they're just samples of the ripple effects of the anger on the ground, making its presence felt in more ways than one. The younger generation has always been considered to be smarter than the older one. But now the long climb of human intelligence has hit a sudden vertical drop, it seems, for the first time since records started. Children reportedly are scoring lower on IQ tests than their parents, sparking a global panic in a way over the digital erosion, perhaps, of the human mind. Our next story decoding this for you.
It begins with digital addiction. Before Gen Z learned to read, they learned to swipe. Before boredom could sharpen curiosity, an algorithm filled the gap. Gen Z averages 9 hours daily on screens. This high usage is driven by social media, gaming, and streaming. Experts warn that this constant digital stimulation may be quietly reshaping the brain-shortening attention spans, weakening memory, and dulling problem-solving skills. During the hearing of U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, experts explain how the kids have been cognitively stunted by their over-reliance on digital technology in school.
The answer appears to be the tools we are using within schools to drive that learning. Across 80 countries, as Jean was just saying, if you look at the data, once countries adopt digital technology widely in schools, performance goes down significantly, to the point where kids who use computers about 5 hours per day in school for learning purposes will score over 2/3 of a standard deviation less than kids who rarely or never touch tech at school. And that's across 80 countries.
For more than 100 years, human intelligence followed a clear upward path. Each generation scored higher on IQ tests than the one before, a rise known as the Flynn effect. That pattern has now stalled. In some countries, it has reversed. Researchers say Gen Z shows weaker performance in areas such as reading comprehension, mental arithmetic, focus, and logical reasoning, despite spending more years in classrooms than their parents. The paradox is striking. This is the most educated generation on paper, yet one that struggles with sustained thinking. Experts point to digital overload, endless notifications, short-form videos, instant answers replacing effort. When information is always available, the brain stops storing it. Memory becomes external. Thinking becomes reactive. Sleep loss compounds the problem. Studies show Gen Z sleeps less than previous generations, largely due to late-night screen use. Poor sleep directly impacts learning, emotional regulation and decision-making, rising anxiety, social media pressure, and economic uncertainty, and the cognitive load becomes heavier still. However, some critics argue intelligence is changing, not disappearing. Gen Z excels at visual navigation, rapid information scanning, and adapting to new tools. Traditional IQ tests, designed in the age of books and letters, may not fully capture these skills. What looks like lower intelligence may instead be a shift away from deep, linear thinking toward fast, fragmented processing. Gen Z remains a complex mix, highly adaptable, tech-fluent, and socially aware, yet facing unprecedented economic stress, burnout, and now questions about how today's minds are shaped. Whether this marks decline, transformation, or just a shift in skill sets, one thing is clear: the generational IQ story has changed, and the debate is just beginning.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across